Hey guys, day number 3 of learning Unity. It was actually pretty cool. Today was one of those days where I got to actually dive in and learn quite a bit about Unity. Most of the time, day 2, day 1, I didn't really get a chance to spend as much time as I would like diving into Unity, learning everything, and really just kind of getting my hands dirty with the software. So today was kind of cool because I actually got to spend about 4 hours working on Unity stuff, whereas yesterday was like an hour at most, and the day before that was probably like 2 hours. Day 1 was like 2 hours. Today was really cool because I actually got to go into a ton of depth on a lot of different things, including like layers and creating game objects, and actually got to code some stuff. And I mean, I got really in depth with it, and I actually started building my level for Angry Birds. Again, I am following the tutorial created by Sasquatch B Gaming that I will link in the description down below this video. It is a 4 hour and 50-minute course. But with that being said, it is action packed so far, and it actually has some good places for you to kind of stop and, carry on the next day. So that's where I was. I kind of stopped at a certain point right after I serialized my fields and brought those in and kind of just assigned the specific line renderers and transforms to the page, to my script. So it was pretty cool. I learned a lot about organization, and I actually had to decide on an IDE again. So I went with VS Code naturally because VS Code is pretty solid. I've always liked VS Code, and I know that VS Code has a ton of packages, or I guess add-ons, I think is what they call them, for Unity. So it kind of just enhances everything, beefs it all up, and makes it a lot easier to write code in C#. All things considered, where I'm at right now with Unity is pretty cool. I've actually had to figure out some of my own errors, and I've made some videos about those errors that I've actually found out. One comes out Friday, for example, and that error was something along the lines of, despite my hierarchy being correctly fleshed out, my background was still behind my foreground, and it wouldn't show up at all. And so there's two ways to solve that. The way that I solved it was with setting kind of layers up where I had my background, my foreground, and then UI layers. And so I set my background to my background and my ground in the foreground, and then everything else in the foreground. And then there's also another little box in there where you can actually change the numbers on. So you could have, for example, my background at one point had -10 was the layer for it. And then I would just continue to iterate through. And so, some layers have, 9 as their number or whatever it is, because there's so many different sprites and pieces that I'm bringing in, that having that organization is something that's very new to me. As a software engineer in the past, I was web development. And as a web developer, you don't really have to deal with layers in that same manner. So it was actually really interesting to dive into it. And I actually found it out. Like, I learned how to do it and created these tutorials that are coming out on Friday before they were actually covered in the tutorial that I was watching, which is definitely counterintuitive, and I probably should have just kept watching. But whenever something arises that is a problem for me, or my screen doesn't look like the instructor's screen, I really want to go back and I want to figure out what my problem was, whether or not they say it after or not. You know what I mean? Like, basically what happened was I was like, oh, my screen doesn't look like his screen. Let me find out the problem. I found out the problem. Then I go back, fix the problem. And then I'm like, okay, let's start the tutorial now that we're caught up. And I play it. And then he basically explains what I just went and spent 2 hours trying to find out. So, but overall, it was actually pretty cool. And I love the fact that I am driven to the point where I actually want to take things on my own. An error pops up and I'm like, oh, let me solve this. So one that I ran into is I actually downloaded a couple of packages for my VS Code editor. And those packages auto-imported certain things into my script. And so whenever I would run the debug code, right, debug.log, whatever, it would actually throw an error on Unity and in my VS Code. And the error was basically, it's too ambiguous. We can't tell if you're talking about the Unity engine or if you're talking about, what was it? It was like Unity Unity something numbers, numerics, something like that. But it was like this other thing that was imported, and it was auto imported whenever I installed the add-on. And so the way that you get past it is, I found out, is by like parsing it. So instead of doing debug.log, you have to do Unity engine.debug.log, right? So that you're giving it kind of a string to follow, and you're declaring exactly what you want it to do and where you want it to do it. Instead of in the numerics, you're like, okay, no, we want it in Unity engine. So stuff like that has just been kind of cool to just go through and just problem solve and just learn more about it and kind of see how C# works. Because again, I don't know how C# works. JavaScript is my home. That's where I'm very comfortable in comparison to any other code language out there. Python, Ruby, stuff like that is pretty good for me. But at the end of the day, like, I'm a JavaScript developer that works with, React and Node. Like, that is my stack that I am the most comfortable with. So this C# stuff has just thrown me for an absolute loop, but it is, in my mind, it is a really good sign for me to be able to look at this, these errors and issues that I'm having. Like, they pop up and I think, okay, cool, let's go solve this. Let's take this and let's go, Google it and look on Stack Overflow and look on like the Unity forums and stuff like that, and actually take it into my own hands to try and solve these problems. That's something that a lot of the times I would be frustrated at times. Just if I weren't as committed to trying to learn this stuff as I am. But the actual development so far has been pretty cool. I mean, creating the level has been a lot of fun. Everything looks pretty cool. I'm learning how to move things around. I have an error right now, or an issue right now, I should say. It's not causing an error or anything like that, but my line renderers are like, their starting points won't move. So instead of it being like, Angry Birds, you have a slingshot, the slingshot sling itself is like a line in the game. And so when I pull that back, it's fine. But what it does is it has like these two dots in the middle of nowhere that were like the start of the line, which is this really weird interaction that I do not understand at all. So that's the next thing. Like, tomorrow, beginning of day 4, I have to jump in there and figure out that issue and just kind of figure out how it all works. And that is just, it's really fun to just go through that like typical dev cycle, where you don't know as much as you know with a different language. You're kind of re-exploring and re-figuring out everything. And it's just a really cool time to document, I guess. But if you guys are getting into Unity, definitely subscribe to this channel. Follow my journey. It's been pretty cool so far. I know we're only at day 3, but I'm making videos every single day on this stuff right now. So I made 2 videos yesterday and scheduled them, one for today, one for tomorrow. It's been pretty cool. It's been really cool. I'm trying to take videos, or trying to take ideas of things that I wish I had yesterday. You know what I mean? Because I'm so fresh that I'm like, oh man, I wish I knew how to set up my UI, for Unity. And that's the video that I put out today, was how to set up your UI as a beginner in Unity, why I set it up the way I set it up. And like, I followed Sasquatch B Gaming, his setup. And then I kind of expanded on it a little bit more and just kind of shared some other stuff that I took time to like look into and figure out how to set it up exactly how I want it to set up and to be set up so that it flows and it feels good for me. So it's been a blast so far, guys. I really appreciate all the support too. I know that a lot of you guys have been checking out the videos, and the comments have been really nice. I really appreciate you guys. So I just wanted to say thank you. Let's keep cracking through it. I think it would be so cool to build my first game, here pretty soon. Once I get through this tutorial, I should be there for the most part, but I want to build my own first game, my thing, like my original idea. Maybe hire somebody to do art, or just, find art on a website or whatever and license it, or however it works. I think it would just be super cool. So anyway, guys, thanks for checking out the channel. Thank you for watching the day 3 video. We will be back tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, I actually have something kind of cool for you guys if you want it. I've created a resource list. You can find it in the description down below. You just sign up for it. It's completely free. It just documents the resources that I have and that I've been using since day 1. So there's not a ton on there right now. I think there's 2 or 3 videos. And then this big tutorial that's like 5 hours behind me. But if you're getting started, I think it's probably the perfect place to get started. So click that link and check it out. Peace, guys.